Okay, so let's move on to crop rotation. All right, so this picture perfectly explains crop rotation. You're just moving crops in a circle. You're rotating where they grow every growing season. So we are growing different crops. In the same area. To protect from desertification. Y'all haven't realized that's like the key word for this part of the unit. To protect from desertification and erosion. Okay, so let's look at these two options. So we have green manure, we have organic manure, or organic fertilizer, I should say, organic fertilizer versus inorganic fertilizer. What are the pros and cons of each? Which one should we use? Okay, so this is what we call green manure. And what this is, guys, this is leftover plant bits that are used to fertilize. So obviously this is going to be organic. All right, so this is leftover plant bits for fertilizer. Okay, or we have inorganic fertilizer that's being sprayed everywhere. Inorganic fertilizer, again, this not sustainable because this right here, guys, what is this? This is monocropping. We've established that this is not the best case scenario. Again, also, inorganic fertilizer, what does it do? Leads to cultural eutrophication, which we've talked about is very damaging for the environment. So, yes to organic, no to inorganic. All right. Now, let's look at animal farming. Okay. So here we have high density animal farming. This is also referred to as, okay, here we go, CAFO, C-A-F-O. So CAFO stands for concentrated animal feeding operations. Now, guys, if you look at this picture, you can tell me at least 3 issues that come from raising cattle in these types of conditions. Okay? Would you rather eat a cow that has been raised in a high density animal farming situation or one that is raised on grass? Okay? So, both of these types of livestock are going to be used for slaughter for human consumption. Okay? This is where the difference is. Okay? This is crowded, which means cows can get sick very easily and pass that illness on to other cows. So we use a lot of antibiotics to prevent the spread of disease in these highly concentrated conditions. So it's crowded. They are grain fed because it bulks them up. It makes them heavier so they have more meat, so the farmer makes more money. Cows are not supposed to eat grain. Cows are supposed to eat grass, okay? We have to use, like I said, antibiotics. Now, there is extensive research in showing that antibiotic usage in animals, cows, pigs, chickens, whatever meat you can buy at the grocery store is very bad for human health. It's leading to antibiotic resistance, and it's also causing children today to enter puberty sooner than they should. Okay, so you'll have girls that are starting their periods at 8 and 9, which is way too early, and it's because of these antibiotics in the meat and then also milk production. Okay, this also produces tremendous amounts of waste. So produces large amounts of organic waste. I'm talking about poop, y'all. Of organic waste, which contaminates water from runoff. Okay, now here is what we call free range grazing. So cows are given lots of space in which to roam. They eat their typical food source, which is grass. And so the cow itself is overall healthier. Okay. So this right over here allows cows to graze. Okay. It's antibiotic free. It does require large amounts of land. The only potential issue with this is it can lead to overgrazing if you have too many cows. And the cows, when they poop, that's just natural fertilizer. Okay. So organic waste equals fertilizer. Now, here's the problem though. As a consumer, you go to the grocery store, you have your run-of-the-mill meat, beef that you can buy, or you have this beautiful, lovely, organic meat. Where's the problem? This one is hella expensive. It's going to cost you some money. Okay? Why is that? Because, why does this cost more? The processing of this meat does not happen on site. They have to take it somewhere else to process it. Okay? So, the meat is not processed on site. So you have those transportation costs that have to be factored in. Now, as a consumer, you guys are about to go out into the world and buy your own food. Which one would you rather eat? The high density animal farming or the organic? Okay, that is your choice to make as a future consumer in a grocery store. Okay, now when you're living at your parents' house, you don't have much choice. You just eat what they buy, and honestly, do I buy organic meat all the time? No, because I live on a budget as well. Okay, so I understand that. But I want you to understand the difference between those two types of meat production. All right, so the last thing we're going to look at is what is called aquaculture. And so this is going to be fish farming, essentially. Okay, and I need to know what my time is. Okay, I got plenty of time. All right. Now, aquaculture is fish farming. Now, what we're seeing now is overfishing of our oceans, which means that we're taking fish out faster than they're able to reproduce and replenish. Most of the world survives on a seafood diet. United States, we're one of the exceptions. Okay, we have lots of different animals that we can choose to eat, but most of the population globally lives on the coast. Think of all those Asian countries, and they eat fish as their main source of protein. Okay? So, aquaculture is not using wild capture in the ocean. It's actually creating these units or these ponds where fish are grown in captivity. Okay? So, what are some pros of this type? It is highly effective. It requires less space. Okay. I can't even read my own handwriting. So, now, it is a very efficient process. Now, what are some cons to this? Is it can contaminate surrounding water because of all the fish waste, the poop, okay? So it can contaminate. Surrounding water. Now, this may be funny, y'all, but there are fish that will jailbreak out of these little ponds. They're like, I don't want to be here. I got to escape. So they will literally jump out of these ponds. And because they are a different, it's more of like a genetically modified organism, it can outcompete native fish species. Okay? So fish that escape may compete or breed with wild fish. So that's going to impact biodiversity as well. Breed with wild fish. Okay. Now, let's look at wild capture. Wild capture, I know this is, 10, 11 years ago. Wild capture is actually not the most, it's not the way that we get most of the fish in the market now, okay? Most of the fish that we buy for consumption comes from aquaculture. So you can see the aquaculture production is outpacing the wild capture, okay? So most fish that we do buy in the grocery store comes from aquaculture, unless it says specifically otherwise, and it has to. Okay, so we know that with wild capture, most countries have regulations on what you can and cannot catch. So most of the time, the fish have to be a certain size. Again, we cannot take fish out of the ocean faster than they can reproduce. So they have to be a certain size. And we do know that wild capture is more difficult. It's more difficult. And it's just not used as much, okay? So overfishing, which we want to avoid, it leads to fish scarcity and a decrease in biodiversity. Okay, so that is all of our farming and agriculture notes. I hope that you guys learned something from this and it made you think a little bit differently about what you eat in the grocery store. Okay, so from this point, we'll be looking at some activities that you'll do online, and then we'll have a test over Unit 5.